Hello everyone, welcome you all to AIT Pathsala. Today I will discuss population and sample. So let me write it here. Population and sample. Fine. Let's understand the difference between these two very important terms in probability, which are population and sample. I will try to explain you these concepts with an example. So let me draw one circle over here. Fine. I have drawn this circle. Let's imagine this circle. It's a set of all the people. The set of all the people in the world. Okay. Let me write it here. This circle is a set of all the people in the world. Fine. So this is called population. Population. Let's put this dot. This dot signifies the population of all the people in this world. Fine. Let's say I want to estimate the average height of human being on the planet. So what I want to do? I want to estimate. Let me write it here, estimate the average or mean height of all the human being on the planet. Fine. Now think for a while that this is the problem that I want to solve. What is one way to solve it? Imagine that this is a set of this big circle here. Imagine if this is the set of all the people in the world. So I know that there are almost 8 billion plus people in the world. There are almost how much people? 8. Let me write it here. 8 billion plus people in the world. To actually estimate the height of the human, you have to take each human being into consideration. Then you have to sum up all the heights of this 8 billion people. So it is basically, if you can write it like this, it is basically the summation of height of each person. So it's like summation of height of each person, where I goes from 1 till 8 billion. Fine. So to measure the height of 8 billion people, this is almost impossible, right? You can't measure the height of 8 billion people and then take the average. Because this is my problem that I want to solve. I want to estimate the average or mean height of all the human beings on the planet. So if we want to calculate the average of this 8 billion people, so I have to divide this with 1 by, let's say, 8 billion. And this will give me the average, which is represented as mu. So this is called the mean of a population. So we often represent the mean of population by mu. This is represented by a mathematical symbol mu. Now it's impossible to do that. Since we cannot compute the mean height of all human beings by measuring the height of every human being here, we want to estimate it. This is very important thing. We want to estimate the average or mean height of humans, right? So to do that, what do? We can take sample. Have you understood what is the population? This entire people is the population, and this is the mean of population. Since we can't measure the height of all the 8 billion humans, I can take a sample, okay? So let's draw a smaller circle here. This smaller circle is called a sample. So sample is like this. It's a sample of, let's say, size 1000. So let me write it. Sample of, this is a sample of size 1000. I can say, since I can't measure the height of all the 8 billion people, I will take a random sample. So a sample is basically a subset. A sample is basically a subset of the population, right? So I can take a sample of people from this entire population. Let's say if I take a sample of this 1000 people, I just mentioned here, I can measure their average height. So I can do something like this. 1 by 1000 multiplied by summation of hi, where I is equal to 1 to 1000. So these are the heights of my sample. Now, if I collected my sample here, remember the word that I'm using. If I collected my sample in such a way that I have randomly picked 1000 people from this entire population of 8 billion plus people, I have randomly picked 1000 people. Such a sample is called a random sample. So when I take a random sample of 1000 people, I know that 1/6 of the world population comes from India. 1/6 of the world population comes from India. So I should get roughly around 1 by 6 into 1000, which is roughly around 160 odd people. So 160 people should come from India. So in the random sample, you need to make sure that you are getting people from all regions of the world in the proportion that they are in the population. That's what happens when you take a random sample. Now, this random sample is often represented as H bar. So let's represent this as H bar. Fine. We often write it as H bar. If I wrote this like Xi, I will write it as X bar. If I, instead of the Hi, if I write it Xi, then this is like X bar. Okay. So typically symbols like this are used to represent the mean of a sample. So this is basically what? This is basically my mean of a sample. Let me write it here. This basically represent mean of the sample. And what is this? This is my mean of population, and this is mean of population is represented by mu, and this is a mean of sample, which is represented by small. One thing to note is as the sample size increases, let me write it here, as the sample size increases. One thing to note is that as the sample size increases, when it becomes fairly large, your mean becomes equal to your sample mean. That means this is your population mean become equals to your sample mean. This is my population mean, and this is my sample mean. So your sample mean becomes equal to your population mean as the sample size increases. So instead of, let's say, this 1,000 people, if you take 1 million people, as the sample size increases from 1,000 to 1 million, this instead of this sample size increases from, let's say, 1,000 to 1 million, your sample mean will converge towards the population mean. Okay, it will come closer and closer. It will become closer and closer to your population mean. Okay, so in this session we wanted to understand the difference between what a population is and what a sample is. So population is a set of all the events or all the observations, while a sample is a subset of the population, which you have taken to estimate, to make the estimation about some statistic or some property of the population. Okay. Here, that property or statistic is height. Property. So here, this height is my property oblique statistic. Fine. So we wanted to compute the average height of the human, right? So this height is called property or statistic that we want to measure for the population. Again, I will keep using these terms, population and sample. So whenever you encounter them, just think population means the universe of all the things, and a sample is a subset of the population. That's all for today's session. See you in the next session. Keep learning, keep smiling.